Taylor from Hitchcock. How are you?
Fantastic, mate. Lovely to be here.
It's good to have you here, mate. That's a strong name. It runs off the tongue, doesn't it?
TT.
That's it.
TT.
That's
You
it.
don't come across many Trents these days, so
Yeah, fair call. Fair call. So listen, thanks for your time in advance. We don't know each other. I think we're connected on LinkedIn. So as is pretty common on these podcasts, I learn about you whilst
mhm.
we're recording. But without further ado, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. So Trent Taylor, owner operator of Kairos Strategies. So we provide a whole range of asset management, building auditing, primarily in the data capture space. So we effectively go out to commercial buildings, government assets, capture all their maintainable assets, building fabric. We condition it, life cycle it, get the compliance of the information. But in a nutshell, we advise clients and inform them with data on how to make decisions on what they need to spend, when they need to spend it, how they should intervene and when, understand the risk portfolio of properties. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So, I've done a lot of work with banks, quite recently, and they talk to me, as do accountants, that data is the new currency.
Yep.
That there's accountancies that I know to go out and buy other accountancies, even for the debt. It doesn't
Mhm.
matter. It's the data. That's where the money sits. And
Yep.
I obviously speaking to the Reserve Bank and how the amount of data they go through, how they interpret it, what it predicts, what it tells them. Banks are a risk portfolio essentially.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
I find it fascinating, but tell us a little bit more about what got you into this space.
So if I go back to the start, I left school year 9, year 10, 15 years old. Did the trade. So I'm a HVAC technician by trade originally. So really got all the technical background from there working in the commercial environment. Used to rebuild chillers and install chillers. From there, was in the UK for a few years, worked at the Royal Academy of Arts. Transitioned once I returned back home into facilities management. And that was more kind of commercial working and kind of sharpened the skill sets with that. At that point in time, did an accounting degree, which I did 85% of, and then started the business. So when we started, we weren't 100% focused in on asset management and building auditing. So we were doing a little bit of everything, a bit of management accounting, a bit of management consulting, pretty much anything and everything with kind of the initial network we had. And as we progressed, we're doing more condition audits, more data capture, and that was really all of my skill sets and that I'd acquired kind of fed into that, and we were quite passionate about it. And it brings together, like you mentioned, a lot of data. It brings together the technical skills, the analytical element of it all. So it kind of really just fit myself quite well. Um, we were fortunate when we first started. We acquired a really large client, so a blue chip client, and they were a big facilities management operator. And so, as a result, being a small business, they were able to leverage us into all top tier clients. So, whilst we were just myself and a couple of other people, really immature business, we were working on the really top tier clients. And that forced the business to grow in terms of process and quality to meet these clients' requirements. Um, I think that probably fast tracked us 5 or 6 years ahead of where we would have been otherwise. And we weren't having to scratch and kind of build from the ground up. As a result of then doing those clients, we got more exposure to other large FM organizations who started to use us more frequently. And now, we're 9 years deep, we've evolved the business and we're doing a lot more direct to clients, and the business has naturally kind of progressed from there. So, yeah, we were quite fortunate in the first couple of years to get that opportunity.
Okay. And talking about your skill set, is it fair to say, and I picked it up, so you didn't finish your accounting
Uh,
studies, but if it was an arts degree, people say, "Oh, I'd never completed it. I went off, I
yep.
did something else, I had to change my mind." But you're doing accounting, so you said 85%.
Yeah. So when I was working at 7-Eleven as head of FM over there, I I was really keen at that stage. I saw myself becoming a director or a general manager or a CEO or senior executive level employee in a position. I then moved to JOL and kind of had that ambition. But one of my shortfalls has always been patience, and I was quite impatient. And I'd quickly realized that it was a 15, 20-year investment of time in these organizations before you can really kind of, get ahead and enter that level that I was looking for. Um, that just didn't sit well with me. I was too busy and I wanted to keep moving and going. So the opportunity came. I met Jay, who's the business partner at my last role. And, we got talking, and before you knew it, we started the business and away we went.
But outright though, it's fair to say you have an analytical mindset. When we're talking left brain, right brain,
Yeah.
that's the route you go.
Yeah, yeah. And I suppose the reason behind not completing the degree was at the time, I could have knocked it over in 6 months, but I guess it's an all or nothing mindset. And as soon as I started the business, I said, well, I don't need this because I don't need an accounting degree because I'm not doing accounting. And any time spent doing that now is time not spent building the business and sharpening your tools there. So I guess that's always been the mentality, always just all in whatever we're doing in the endeavors.
Okay, so we get all sorts listening to the podcast, which we like, and we get feedback where we don't expect it many times. But what I quite liked about your story on the business itself, so it had a timeline where it started small and agile, bit of everything. Then it was on the sort of hung on the tail coats of a larger business, and it dragged you forward 5 years, etc., etc.
Yep.
There could be people listening to that story that will probably, hopefully, pick up the analogy for even just their career. Okay. And applying the same methodology, if you like, so putting themselves in a situation where they're uncomfortable, where the situation itself and the company they're keeping pulls them along faster than they would have done for themselves, and they can fast forward themselves 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, like yourself. It
Yep.
doesn't have to be sector business. You don't need to um, acquire a large tier one business to make that happen. You can put yourself in different situations to fast track your investment in your career and your business.
Yeah, yeah. And we were fortunate that the service offering that we have is something that they need. And it's something that a lot of businesses try to self-deliver through either a subcontractor network or their contracting team. But if they're using their contract team, they're not delivering their job. They're not doing their BAU. And the subcontractors, you get messy data. It takes longer. It's inconsistent. And the information, if we look back when we started, the information we give the client enables them to deliver on their contract requirements, and it enables them to get projects up and running and drive revenue through the contract. So it's a critical element. And so by us being the boots on the ground, being technical, being hands-on, we just filled that gap for them. And it was great. And it was just a load off them to be able to move forward. So, I suppose the counter to that is you've projected forward 5 years, but you're really invested in these clients and they keep you really busy. So you do have a risk then associated to having all your eggs in one basket. But when you're small and you're starting, that's a great risk to have, right? As long as you're not overextending on staffing and everything else, you need to be aware of, the counter to that, right? I've got a lot of revenue coming in. I've got a lot of work coming in. Maybe the company you're supporting or the couple of companies you support are doing really well. But in business, it always seems like it's a momentum thing. Businesses will have a great 2-3 year period and maybe they lose staff or their attitude changes or the market sentiment changes to them and how they're performing, tall poppy syndrome perhaps, or competitors lift their game and then they have a great 2 to 3 year run. So, you have to be aware of those cycles as well.
Talking of ebbs and flows then, how was COVID for your business?
For a while, I could say it was one of the more enjoyable times of my life because the years prior, I'd worked my absolute guts out. And so I traveled 9 months out of the 12 prior. So I barely saw my partner. We had won 3 projects just pre-COVID. They were all government projects, being local government and state. They all stopped naturally. The one was in New Zealand. We had 2 in New Zealand and we had 1 in New South Wales. And obviously we're Victorian based. As a result of how we'd structured the business, it was largely subcontractors in those regions because a lot of what we do is project based in different regions. And so you build your network and you build your trusted alliances out there. And so because we had an extremely low overhead business, the fact it just stopped overnight didn't really have a huge impact. We were able to get the support through government. Personally, then we renovated the house, which was a bit of a punt. We absolutely gutted it and renovated it. And I got to spend time with my partner, and that was great. And most of our auditors are trades. They're all trade-based people like myself because, I think they are most applicable to the work we do. And so they were coming over and they were renovating the house when they could. So they were getting money. Everything was going well. When everything lifted, government had to spend money to get things going again and get confidence back in the market. So whilst we didn't know at the time, it came online. Our 3 projects kicked off straight away. So we just picked up exactly where we left off. All my finances, all the business, that just stopped, and it picked up 6 months later or 9 months later, whatever that core shutdown period was. So we're quite fortunate that the projects we had were backed by government or backed by industries that had to keep spending to bring back confidence.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So it sounds like you're quite fortuitous and probably look back at COVID with some fondness in some respects.
Well, look, I do, and I'd say yes, partly fortuitous, but also that's how we envisage when we set the business up to be recession-proof almost. So what do we need to do so we don't kind of get severely impacted through this? Now, business has changed since then. There's a lot more overheads and resources associated to it, but we're still largely a lean kind of machine, and that's the way we want to keep it.
Okay. So talking about being recession-proof, one of the things that people do is acquire market share, and that's by having a strong USP. Okay. That point of difference where people will only go to you rather than your competitors.
Mhm.
What would yours be?
I think there's quite a few. I'll rattle a couple off. Trade-based auditors. So we work in a lot of commercial environments. So trade people that have worked in that environment 10, 15 years prior, they're comfortable, they can deal with the clients, they appreciate the sensitivities of certain elements and certain criteria, and they have the technical understanding. So that's one thing. We always use trade-based, whereas some competitors use engineering grads, where it's a different mindset, it's a different skill set, and they can really get stuck on the detail. So that's one area. I guess the breadth of our background, being field-based, being FM-based, doing consulting, we kind of understand the whole picture. We understand where the client needs to get to in terms of what the data means. So in that, you need to understand what decisions the client wants to make, how they're going to use the data, which should inform how you set your project up, not the other way around. It shouldn't be, this is how I do it, so here's your data. But you need to have the end goal in mind. So it's understanding that whole end-to-end piece.
Yeah, and I agree. That all makes perfect sense to me. Everything seems very stable.
Yeah. And I suppose just one other to that is we are a SME in that space, and that is our core offering. This is what we do day in, day out. A lot of other companies, it's kind of an ad hoc part of their business. So they might be an engineering firm who maybe they do it because the opportunity is there. So therefore, it doesn't get the time, it doesn't get the attention that it needs. So because we do it every single day, we've got the processes, we've got the systems that support, an efficient and quality delivery.
Yeah, love it. Okay. All right. So let's fast forward those 5 years. Let's do that 5 years data on yourself that you've used for your customers. What does today, 5 years time from now, look like for you?
5 years time, we'd like to double the revenue. We're starting to do a lot more outbound marketing and being more active with the presence of the business. The first 6 years, 7 years, we did nothing. It was all organic growth. It was all delivering for our clients. We're working with these large organizations which were basically feeding us. So we didn't have to be out there and build a presence. And that was fantastic. I would say we probably left staffing up and resourcing up for the next scale probably a year or two too long. Did that as a bit of a disservice. But we've gotten through that kind of rough patch of a couple of years of staffing and process and all that development. So now we're really in a position to scale. We've built our own audit capture tool. We've built our own automatic QA component within that. We're automating as much as we can through our delivery of works. So that's enabling us to be more efficient, but ultimately scale, because we want to have as few heads as possible in the business who are paid well, who know what they're doing to deliver, that 10x or that 5x of what we're looking at today. So historically, it would be a 1-to-1 ratio. If I get X, I need Y. but now I can get XXX for Y. So that's been a big focus the last couple of years and continues to be a focus. So 5 years time, we want a significant market share. We're partnering with some really good quality organizations who do software, who are looking at more AI solutions, which really support each other. Because the growth from just an organic phase is slower. You might lose a few of those relationships. So we're looking at more strategic partnerships, which can really kind of propel us forward in that space.
That's the way to do it. I'm a big fan of strategic partnerships. People that are speaking to your customers at a different timeline that are non-competitor to you.
Yeah.
That's the way to do it. Okay, all right. And anybody listening to your story and sort of the DNA of your business, and they're sort of gravitated towards what you do,
Mhm.
and maybe they're earlier stage in their career, what would be your advice to them if they're looking to go down this route?
So if you look at it as asset management, it's a space that is growing quite a lot. It's been around for a while. I kind of look at it like it was sustainability maybe 8 years ago, and it's really kind of coming to the fore now. There's some good courses you can do. There's some good consultants. It is a shortage market, so there's a shortage of skills. The core thing to do, I think, is to get technical skills to better understand it. So there's two elements. There's the strategy, which sits up top, which informs what you do, and then there's the data that kind of feeds that. They enable each other. I think by having a good foundational understanding of the data and structure of it and the technical elements that make that is the core, irrespective if you go into strategy or not. Um, so I came from trade. I think trade background is really quality. It also sets you up to go into a lot of different avenues. If maybe you don't want to do asset management strategy or planning, you can go into facilities management, you can go into operations. There's skill sets that are kind of falling off. You can see in the industry that we work in that there's less technical skills becoming available.
Hmm.
And if you look back maybe, let's just say 15 years ago, all the people that ran buildings and facilities were engineers, older engineers that were looking to retire, and they knew it intimately. From there, it became ex-tradies like myself were running facilities who had good technical understanding. Now it's people that have come straight out of uni who don't have that kind of hands-on experience. So anyone that's got the hands-on experience and that technical backing, will really be a standout moving forward, I think.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I've got my recruitment hat on now, so obviously you've got some issues there with when there's a small talent pool and that.
Mm.
So there's there's still a decent trend of people finishing school, doing their apprenticeship in a trade, but that trade not quite putting them through for the end, like doing your 85% of your accounting, if you like.
Yep.
Those sorts of people would probably be quite good for you, and it'd be maybe something that wouldn't be on their radar. They wouldn't be thinking if they're feeling a bit lost, but they've acquired those skills. They'd be,
100%. 100%. So it's important to differentiate between the type of trades that would be suitable and then the type of environments they've worked in. So, your core technical areas being HVAC, fire, hydraulic, plumbing, and electrical,
yeah,
and even vertical transport, right? So those five are your key main infrastructure trade skill sets. Builders are also quite good, but you need these people to have skills in commercial or industrial or the same like environment. We've had a lot of people over the years who have had trade background, but maybe they've only done domestic housing or
mm,
they've done installs elsewhere. So they can explain to you some elements, but then they go on a site, so you see the fear into the eye. It's just a step too far. So it's the relevance of the skill of the trade and then the relevance of the sectors that they've worked in. Um, People that do mining, right? Maybe they're sick of living away from home and traveling in and out, but they've been hands-on with pumps and gears and all this real technical hands-on stuff. They make great people that can transition into it. And because they've also got such good processes over in the mines and safety and everything else and quality control, they can slot really well into these type of roles.
yeah. Okay, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so anybody listening to this, your story resonates. They want to give you some business. Or they want to,
Beautiful.
or whatever they want to reach out to you about.
Mhm.
What would be the best way, your preferred way for them to contact you?
LinkedIn direct message, or they could grab my email and just send something from the website. it'll get to me one way or the other.
Yeah, perfect. All right. Well, feel free to add it in the comments when this is published, and hopefully you get a load of foot traffic.
Thank you. Let's see.
All right. Fantastic. Thanks a lot for your time, Trent.
Thank you, mate. Good chat.
Hello again, I am Mr. Purple. Thanks again for watching this video. If you like my videos, we like what we try to do here, please subscribe if you haven't done it already. The other thing that's very popular right now is the t-shirts, the Mr. Purple t-shirts. There's lots of people wearing these at the moment. You can grab yours on our website, copying this link below. So once again, thanks for listening. We love your feedback. Engage with us and speak soon.